Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is February the 4th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was good. Tonight hasn't been so great. I'll try to get into it really quick. Overall, today was solid in terms of the work. Nothing too crazy. Work was working. We went to the gym. Gym was good. Busy, but good. A lot of people there, but we got to all our machines, so I'm happy with that. Happy with the workout. I will say where things got bad was I yet again, I'm a talker for good, I'm a talker for ill, and sometimes the conversations just go bad, and had a upsetting conversation that kind of just put me in a bad mood, bad place, and I'm still kind of there, which sucks. And then also, I hopped on the scale and I gained like all the weight I lost. So it was one of those little freak like body anomalies, where you lose a bunch of weight out of nowhere, but then the next day, you gained it all back. And I mean, to be fair, I did eat. I had my Mexican beef and rice bowl last night. That's the food corner. It was yummy. It was worth it. I'd do it again and I will do it again. But yeah, just a bummer to see the scale do what you want and then completely like betray you in a way. Even though I know it's all me, it's all what I'm putting into my body, it's what I'm doing, all of that, and it's okay. Like overall, looking at where I'm at, I'm back up to 225. We're still in the 20s. It's okay. That's still a net loss from the last time I had weighed in before yesterday. I think of 3 pounds, so it's still good. It's just one of those things where a really nasty little 1-2 punch for me on my Tuesday night. But we move, we progress. So let's go ahead and get into our startup and we will get into some news. Hopefully I don't flub it up. But speaking of flub ups, I did get the guy's name wrong of the DNC. It is Ken Martin. Just to, get my P's and Q's correct. And then also David Hogg, I believe, is the vice chair of the DNC now, which is interesting because he was I believe, a Sandy Hook survivor. So a bit of a callback there. I mean, we'll see. I still feel the same way about the DNC. I don't think anything's really going to change. I don't think they're really going to gain any teeth or really gain any tact in terms of like what they're going to do in the future to, potentially get or secure power. And even if they do, we already know what they're going to do. They're going to do the same kind of Joe Biden, Obama ass fucking bullshit. So that is what that is. So we can just go ahead and clip that off and move along. Anyway, let's go ahead and do our startup and we'll get into it. All right. First story comes from Quartz. Google, Calvin Klein, and Illumina are the first casualties of Trump's trade war. All right, gotta scroll. China's first major response to President Donald Trump's tariffs wasn't like the US's approach, which tackled all Chinese imports. Instead, Beijing singled out a handful of big areas and major companies to pile on the pressure. Google was the first named casualty of the trade war. China's State Administration for Market Regulation, or SAMR, I'm going to say SAMR, announced an investigation into Google just minutes after the U.S. levied tariffs of 10% on all imports from the nation. In a one-sentence statement, the agency said Google was suspected of violating anti-monopoly laws. An investigation could lead to fine or other penalties. Google launched its search engine in China in 2006 before pulling back from the mainland in 2010 over censorship disputes and a major hack. The company still works with Chinese partners such as advertisers, and Chinese phone makers also use Google's Android operating system. Let's see here. As well, Sammer launched a probe into. Oh, this was in December. Sammer launched a probe into whether NVIDIA's 2020 acquisition of Israeli chip designer Mellanox Technologies for 6.9 violated any anti-monopoly laws. I guess that's not really to the main point, but I figured, hey, why not? We're just reading. Let's see. China's Commerce Ministry also put PVH Corp, which owns fashion brands Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, and biotechnology firm Illumina on its unreliable entity list. That could lead those firms being sanctioned. I don't know. There's a period there. Sorry. That could lead to those firms being sanctioned. In a statement, the ministry said the firms violated normal market trading principles and discriminated against Chinese companies. So yeah, I mean, that's where we'll leave it for now. I mean, we could get into more details on this and that, but I know that Trump and Xi Jinping are planning on having at least a phone conversation and potentially getting to, some kind of resolution between the two countries in terms of, what are we going to be doing about these tariffs? This definitely feels very tit for tat. It seems like China took a very measured response to say, hey, we're not going to hit everything in a blanket, but we're going to hit, these specific things. Also, I think there was another thing I wanted to add. China on Tuesday also said it would add a 15% duty to 50% duty to imports of U.S. coal and liquefied natural gas on February 10th, along with a 10% tariff on crude oil, agriculture, machinery, certain cars, and pickup trucks. It also plans to impose export controls on goods and technology related to critical minerals, including tungsten and tellurium. Also, I wish I had, had the information at the ready of like how much, because I know this is an additional 10. I don't know how much they're already tariffed. I know they've been tariffed, a lot, but not just with the Trump administration in 2016, but also the Biden administration kept, tariffs in place against China. I can't remember if we covered or there were any more tariffs like he added to China. I'm not sure. But, essentially, we've been going through this the whole time. Nothing has changed despite whatever administration. It's just Trump is back on, and he's been doing this whole style of negotiation via tariffs. So, we'll see if this is going to be something that holds, if, Trump keeps it, backs it down, if both countries wind up ratcheting it up, and potentially any other consequences. It's still worth noting that, it's seemingly that the bullet is dodged for Canada and Mexico and us in terms of our little trade war. But that's only on pause for 30 days to a month. We'll see. What Trump has tied this to is you got to get fentanyl and the borders under control. And also, we're just not getting ours, and everyone's getting over on us. So we should be doing tariffs. So it's just this vague, opaque thing where it's how do countries really have a conversation with you about this shit? And countries are trying. Once again, I would say that most are being more diplomatic than I think I would be as a nation state or leader of a nation state, because it's if this man's down to take the hits, then why aren't we? Fuck it, man. And I think with China, they have the ability, because where they are at economically with their power, we can do this. We can go tit for tat with you. So if that's what you really want to do, Donald, we can do it. And I think that that's more or less where Xi Jinping's at with it. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Maybe post conversation. Maybe we'll have some more updates in that regard. But anyway, we still got to stay in the Trumpverse. I kind of just wanted to start on this, and it sucks too because I'm starting on this and it's not getting better. By the way, spoilers. But from CNN. South Africa denies confiscating land after Trump threatens to cut off aid, which I think is very funny because, we talked about the USAID. I'm going to keep saying USAID. I don't care. How, he's cutting that off. It's dude, how are you acting like you're going to be doing people any big favors in the fucking future for the next 4 years? This seems so fucking weird and annoying and frustrating. But of course, a guy like Donald Trump, his administration, he can always find a way to make it worse for you. I think that's always the fear. It's always the fucking concern. So let's get into it. South African President Cyril responded on Monday to U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to cut off aid over the alleged mistreatment of white farmers, denying Trump's claim that authorities were confiscating land. And this is not just a thing that Donald Trump is saying. This is a thing that Elon Musk is saying, and he's making sure that Donald Trump knows how fucked up it is, and he should really say something too. So here we are. South Africa is a constitutional democracy that is deeply rooted in the rule of law, justice, and equality. The South African government has not confiscated any land, Ramaphosa wrote on X. We look forward to engaging with the Trump administration over our land reform policy and issues of bilateral interest, he wrote. He added that while the U.S. was a key strategic political and trade partner, it does not provide significant funding to South Africa besides a major HIV and AIDS relief program. But that's why I mentioned like the US aid shit, because it's like, yeah, dude, it's not like you're planning on continuing these kind of services. Like, it sounds like, no, that well's running dry anyway, and it's not like you're really giving us any handouts. So, like, what are you doing screaming? We're going to talk to you, of course, we need to. You're the you fucking S. But it's like, okay, man, like, one, that's not what we're fucking doing. By the way, this is merely a policy that Ramaphosa is trying to enact. This is not something where it's like, oh, we're oppressing the white people, the poor white people. Oh, I should really try to just read. Trump, yeah, let's just read from here. Trump's long-held complaint, which he'd also made in 2018. So I guess I should say, hey, it's not like only Elon Musk has made this and he's just worm-tonguing him. Donald Trump wants to do this, which is a lot of times guys like this are in lockstep anyway. It's not like he needs much convincing that now's the time. Racist policies of the past forcefully removed black and non-white South Africans from the land for white use. There had been a land redistribution and restitution provision in the country's constitution since South Africa emerged from its apartheid era and held its first democratic elections in 1994. However, unemployment and poverty remains acute among black South Africans, who make up around 80% of the population, yet own a fraction of the land. So essentially, having these kind of conversations are so scary to the powers that be, to the powers that have, to the Elon Musks of the world. They're like, no, we have to fight for this. I think I saw like a headline about, oh, if things get so bad or get any worse, all the white South Africans are welcome in America as refugees. I'm like, yeah, let them come. Bring them around. I just want to talk. Let's just have a discourse. Why not? Like, fuck out of here, bro. This is bullshit. Like, this is literally just long-term, soft, vague apartheid shit. And essentially, people are crying victimhood over it. Where it's like, our precious land. I can't believe they're going to come and oppress us now. How's it fair? Like, bro, we are talking about redistributing your land that you have more than enough of, that you should not really have when we actually go into the fucking history of it all. It's so frustrating, y'all. I'm sorry. I really, part of me wants to just, rant about this for the remainder of the episode and just be mad about fucking this. But there's more things going on in the world, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. We will see how it goes. Obviously, I'm frustrated with this kind of shit. But it comes with it, we just have to keep having these conversations over and over and over again. And we gotta keep fighting for it. Even though, once again, I have to really reinstate this. This is something that Ramaphosa is pushing, but it's more, in my opinion, a populist kind of tactic. Like, it's something that he's gonna keep putting in a carrot in front of you. But once again, that's why it's a reminder that people are still in poverty. These things are coming to pass. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even think that this is going to be something that's even realistic. Most likely, when he's done glazing off Elon Musk and Donald Trump in bukkake akimbo fashion, I'm sure this is going to be something that's even further off the table anyway. So no one really has to worry about it. These motherfuckers are screaming so loud to just keep a fucking status quo. It's insane, dude. It's so fucking insane. Anyway, let's move on. Like I said, I know that this shit is going from bad to worse. And that's just how it is. That's just how life goes. Let's move on from the NPR to the NPR. All right, I guess it's from the NPR. Whatever. About 10 people are dead in a shooting at an adult education center in Sweden. Swedish police said that about 10 people, including the gunman, were killed during a shooting Tuesday at an adult education center, but a final death toll and a conclusive number of wounded hadn't yet been determined. The damage at the crime scene was so extensive that investigators were unable to be more definitive, said Roberto Ede Forrest, head of the local police. The shooting happened on the outskirts of the city of Orbo, which is located about 200 kilometers or 125 miles west of Stockholm. Police said that the death toll could rise. Ede Forrest told reporters that the suspected gunman was among those killed. Police believe the perpetrator acted alone. He wasn't previously known to police, officials said. This is another situation where I do not know any like the make and model of the gun. In Sweden, gun violence is very rare. They have a pretty strict gun policy. That being said, I mean, you still can have situations like this with knives or axes, but needless to say, a gun is rare. The school, which is called, and I'm gonna get this wrong in advance, so mea culpa, Campus Rebergska, serves students who are over the age of 20, according to its website. Primary and upper secondary school courses are offered, as well as Swedish classes for immigrants, vocational training, and programs for people with intellectual disabilities. So yeah, I mean, obviously very sad, very unfortunate. It's a shame that this shit goes on, anywhere and everywhere. I mean, and I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I know there's so many stories of shootings that happen in America and just in general all over that, I don't cover, I don't get to. But I do try to get the ones that do make headlines that come around my way. I do try to get to them as best as I can. So yeah, I mean, I'll keep you posted if I get any more details out of this situation. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about some Proud Boys. Technically, this is a win. It's one of those where, especially you look at where we're at in America, and especially with like the whole January 6th just blanket pardon situation, it feels very tenuous. But we'll get into it. We'll get to the details. Sorry, I'm kind of playing for time here. I need to also drink some water. All right. Far-right group Proud Boys loses legal naming rights to Black church it vandalized. The Proud Boys have lost control of their own name after the far-right extremist group subjected a Black church in Washington, D.C. to a hateful and overtly racist attack during the violent final days of Donald Trump's first presidency. The ruling Monday by Judge Tanya Jones Bossier, which I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, of Washington, D.C.'s Superior Court grants the church, the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church, power over how the Proud Boys moniker is used. Bossier's decision opens a pathway to seizing proceeds from the sale of any merchandise featuring the white supremacist group's name, logo, and insignia too. Lawyers for the church sought the ruling to satisfy a $2.8 million judgment stemming from the December 2020 attack during a rally by Trump supporters who falsely claimed that victory was stolen from him when he lost the presidential election that year to Joe Biden. Several Proud Boys members scaled a wall at the church and embarked on a rampage of vandalism that included burning a Black Lives Matter or BLM banner. The mob, the mob included Henry Enrique Tarrio, a planner of the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack, who was subsequently sentenced to 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy. But he was among 1,500 people pardoned and freed when Trump returned to office January after defeating Kamala Harris in November's election. Let's see here. In the June 2023 ruling, DC Superior Judge Neil Kravitz said Tarrio and fellow Proud Boy members John Turano, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, and Jeremy Bertino acted with an evil, discriminatory motive based on race, and that their conduct was reprehensible to an extreme degree when they attacked the church. It was one of a number of violent incidents that took place. We can skip that. I don't care. Tarrio did not take part. Oh, you also know that as well. Since being freed from prison, he has called for revenge on those who persecuted and jailed him. The people who did this, they need to feel the heat. They need to be put behind bars, and they need to be persecuted, he said in January. So this kind of gets us to the phase where I go, like I said, the trepidation. I'm glad to see the Proud Boys taking an L like this, and I would hope that either they, one, stop using their logo, they have to completely rebrand. They're not going to stop, obviously, but at least they can just, they go through that whole fucking hassle, and that's a whole thing. But they seem very defiant from what I've seen in just the initial responses. And then you also go to this too. Tarrio is not the leader of the Proud Boys at this point. I believe they have a new leader. I don't know who it is, but that being said, I'm sure he's still going to be very much involved. So the idea that these guys are going to back down or stop or anything of the sort is just highly unlikely. If anything, they are going to find ways to escalate. And we are living in a time where they feel very much empowered to do so, and potentially even think that the judicial system is going to back them around this time. So I don't know. I'm happy to see them take this kind of loss, but we'll see if there's what the exact result of it is, what the aftermath of it is. You know what I'm saying? So, once again, it's a dub, but, I guess we got to put some dots behind it. But I mean, it's also frustrating too, because cash is king in my mind. These motherfuckers should have to pay this shit up. But the way this shit works is like, yeah, okay, but you can just go through the whole legal process and we can just keep dragging this out and never wind up seeing any money. You never wind up seeing any compensation. But at least you get this, right? You get this symbolic closure of their brand, and they have to like either rebrand or pay you. Which, do you think they're gonna pay you, dude? Do you really think dragging them to court's gonna actually do anything? I don't know. So like, once again, I just feel, I guess, a way about it, but we can technically count this as a dub, right? But talking about dubs, we gotta talk about losses. I got an update here in terms of the prosecutor who was kind of involved, not involved, allegedly, I guess I gotta say that, with the death of Ahmaud Arbery, or at least the post covering up of it. I'm being very mouthy here, and that's not much of a hint. Anyway, let's just go ahead and take our last break, and we'll close it out. Ooh. It's like burping a ghost. Ooh. Super Galactic Space Donut. Anyway. Sorry. From the Associated Press, or the AP, as I like to call them. Oh, let me rally. Scaling the walls? No. Judge orders acquittal of ex-prosecutor on one of two counts in misconduct trial over Ahmaud Arbery case. Whew. A judge on Monday ordered the acquittal of a former Georgia prosecutor on one of the two misconduct charges against her, ruling that prosecutors at her trial failed to present any evidence that I caught y'all in a little fumble here, AP. Typo. That any evidence I gotta go with what I know, that she obstructed a police investigation of the 2020 killing of Ahmaud Arbery. The trial of former district attorney Jackie Johnson was to continue Tuesday. She still faces a felony charge of violating her oath of office. Soon after prosecutors rested their case Monday, the judge took the rare step of granting a directed verdict on the misdemeanor obstruction charge against Johnson. The ruling means the judge found the case against Johnson on that single charge was too weak for any reasonable jury to convict her. There's not one scintilla of evidence that I've heard that would authorize a verdict on that count, Senior Judge R. Turner said from the bench. I mean, I was not following this shit in any kind of way outside of just, the story I read previously in this one. But if what we know that there is at least a phone correspondence, and I would imagine that has been talked about and brought up in court, like, what do you mean there's not one scintilla? There's none. There's not even a microscopic bit, Your Honor? Are we being for real? Are we being serious? But in terms of, I guess, any kind of witness testimony, there was a person in office that said, like, hey, I didn't see anything that would suggest a collusion, so I guess that was enough. Hold on, let's see here. I guess we can just read this portion here. Prosecutors suffered a setback last week when Glenn County Assistant Police Chief Stephanie Oliver testified that she and Johnson have never spoken about Aubrey's case. Oliver was one of two officers named in the 2021 indictment charging Johnson with obstruction by directing that Travis McMichael should not be placed under arrest. Prosecutors rested their case Monday without calling Stephen Lowry, the second officer named in the indictment, to testify. Johnson's defense attorneys also asked the judge for a directed verdict on the charge that Johnson violated her oath of office, a felony punishable by 1 of 5 years in prison. Turner told attorneys he was letting the oath violation charge stand for the moment. He asked both sides to submit written briefs with additional legal arguments. So there's a chance that he gets rid of this too, by the way. This is all remaining to be seen. None of this might get to a jury, which I think is fucked up. But, I mean, maybe there's more to come. Maybe this is one of those situations where I'm potentially misinterpreting. But, I don't know. Does it rub me wrong? Yes, it does. I think that most likely there is enough evidence to suggest this, whether the witness is going to say, hey, I can vouch for her that, like, this didn't cross our desk at all. We didn't talk about this shit at all. It's like, at the end of the day, you knew, like, you saw this evidence. You saw this shit and you said, no, it's not really a case, though. There's nothing that we really need to pursue. But when the public saw it, that's when it's like, oh, okay, this is an actual case. And once again, she does have the out of saying, hey, I recuse myself. Like, the second I saw that these people were all involved, the McMichaels is someone who worked under me at one point, I recuse myself. But at the same time, the whole office froze. There is a potential threat of collusion here. We talked about the fucking phone call situation here. Well, granted, we don't have, like, actual transcripts or anything like that, but there is a situation where you have the voicemail. It's like, hey, right after Aubrey's death, you make this fucking phone call to her, like, saying, hey, we gotta talk if you got the opportunity, like, and then there's a correspondence of, like, you guys talked, I believe like it was 16 times. So there's nothing there. It's not a zero-sum thing. I think there's not one scintilla of evidence is extreme to me to say, but we'll see how the rest of it shakes out. I think for me, in these kind of situations, for sure, you at least just want to see the judicial process at least carried out, right? You at least want to see it go to the jury and let them decide, unless it's supposed to go to the goddamn judge, and that's what it is here, but that's not what it is. So I'm frustrated in that regard because you're getting it literally just swatted out by the judge, and it makes me feel like that's fucked up. That's a bit suspicious, but it is what it is. That's living in America. And I mean, hey, sorry in advance if I misinterpreted this and there's maybe more legal stuff to come down the pipe. I know that shit happens sometimes, and then people get in my comments, so just getting ahead of those. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. That will be the episode for today. Looks like we made it. Sorry, for being moody, but hey, that's the process. I appreciate y'all. If you made it this far, but thank you for listening. Once again, sometimes this is just a process for me, and I say all the things that I need to say, whether it's my personal life or it's the news itself, and it just feels good to at least do that, or maybe just get at least like, this is my little bubble, this is my little moment of solace. So I appreciate you hanging out with me for that. This is a weird thing. This is a weird situation that we have here for my little thing I call a podcast. So yeah, if you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. 3 ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. That really helps out a lot. And it's a free action. Keeps you up with the episodes, things like that. Hit the like button. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. Once again, those are all helpful methods to help out the effort if you want to. Once again, you just listening, I don't say this enough, you just listening, you just tuning in, even if it is just for the minute just to help out the algo and help me out and just to say that, hey, I showed up. I love that. I really do. It means the world to me. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.